Okay, thank you very much. I welcome you all here tonight. My name is Megan Willis. I'm with Los Cancioneros Master Chorale. I've served on their board as president and vice president for several years. I'm also on the TPAC board and have been with the group for many years. I'm glad that you all are here. I welcome the candidates, and I have a series of 5 different questions that I'll be asking. I think it's 5. Here's the first question. The city requires that the final deposit payment for your event in the Cultural Arts Center must be received in their office 30 days before the event. Should the city be required to provide a full accounting of the event within 30 days of its conclusion? Bill?
Should they? Yes, it would be really nice. Part of the rationale is some of these organizations bring in a fair amount of money. Now that money just sitting in a bag somewhere, not working for the city, there's no interest accrued. Plus that, after time, maybe some numbers could be forgotten. Part of charities is very difficult with fundraisers. So yeah, I think 30 days is a very adequate amount of time, and as the treasurer said earlier, that would be very feasible.
Well, I think though, one of the things you have to look at is how many people actually use the Cultural Arts Center. We have something there almost every single day, and I think to go through the cutbacks we've gone through and looking at some of the tough things we're going through right now, I think it's a challenge sometimes to make that accounting. Now that's not to say we shouldn't do it, but I think in these times I think it's going to be tough, and I think being involved in some of the organizations I was involved with, not only do you have the challenge of the city staff, but sometimes you have the challenge working with the organization as well. So it might not be totally the city's fault.
Giving them 30 days I think is very generous for the city, especially as Councilman Sutherland said, there's a large amount of money sitting there and we're not accruing any interest on it. And not only at these troubled times, but at any time, you're entitled to be paid and you should be paid promptly. So I would be in favor of 30 days or in some cases have an incentive to even have them pay you even quicker. Thank you.
I think this gets to a broader issue about management of city departments and performance standards, and this is an area that I think I personally would like to explore even more in my next term should the public decide to re-elect me. I think that this is a good example of a potential performance standard that the general services staff could meet, and I think it's worth discussing with the staff members, the actual line level workers, to see whether this is feasible. It would seem to be that it would be feasible. But I think these are some of the things that we actually have to develop as baselines, real performance metrics, so that our city staff can continue to be accountable for the public, including the nonprofit groups that use the performing arts centers here.
One of the things I think, though, that we should look at is if we have a problem that truly is an issue here, I think we need to look at what the staff has to say about it, too, because the staff was right there. They're the ones that know what's going on. And quite often you'll find that the line workers are the ones that have the best ideas, and so they may actually tell you why it's taking so long for this accounting. So any discussion we have should include the staff to find out what the issue might be.
But part of this problem is I don't believe staff is responsible for half of it. If it's a non-profit organization putting it on, they're the ones doing the accounting, they're the ones collecting the money and dispersing it. They're the ones that I think within 30 days should be able to tell staff, we made X amount of dollars, we paid X amount of expenses, this is our profit, and this is what goes to the city on ticket sales. And with computers, I don't see 30 days being a problem whatsoever.
Who's responsible to oversee the accounting on those income and outgo? And what actually percentage are we to be paid? Who oversees that? Is it done by the city staff or is it done by the vendor?
Well, I think it'd be nice to have an idea of an actual case to find out what the issue was, if this is a chronic thing or if it's a one-time thing. I guess from the question it's more of a chronic thing, and I'm not familiar enough with the finances of the Cultural Arts Center and the General Services Department to know exactly who's accounting for the money, so I'm not really sure myself.
Has this ever came up in the past that we questioned the amount being given to the city for their fees?
I haven't heard it before.
To my knowledge, the fees have always been paid on when requested. We just don't know exactly what the take is. Actually, every Monday or Tuesday, we get actually a counting of the people that have been to every event. They tell us 393 went to, example, Wizard of Oz last Saturday night. So if you can do that within 2 days and that city staff just by ticket sales, I think you could very easily say, well, if it was $10 a ticket times 393 plus $250 a ticket, I don't see a problem with doing it. And I don't think is my time up?
Well, I think it was the 4 minutes was up. Is that correct?
Whatever.
4 minutes is up.
It wasn't you.
I feel like a stage
We're
hound.
moving on to the next question.
Yes.
Actually, there was a discussion before City Council regarding the role of the local community arts groups and their use of the Cultural Arts Center facilities. Should there be a priority established for the local-based community arts groups?
I believe the city already has a contract that has a priority on who gets to select the use of those facilities. Isn't that correct?
I think the historical groups that have been there have the priority over new groups that want to come in, whether they're for-profit or not. They have the selection of the dates. I think my understanding is the Performing Arts, the Cultural Arts Foundation has first choice, and then I think the TPAC groups have second choice, and it filters down from there.
It's the Cultural Arts Center Foundation, then any city programs, and then TPAC is the order.
I believe is what you're talking about. About 4 or 5 months ago, there was 2 organizations that are doing much the same program, and they were trying to merge them into one. And that's where the problem came. Neither group wanted to merge because both groups had been doing their program for a while. But with efficiencies trying to make it better, you put the 2 groups together, you get a much better program. But both groups wanted to be independent. Something like that, I think the city has to step up and say, okay, you're both half filling this facility, you're both half paying rents, let's put it into one function and let's make it a big project. I think that's more important than priorities. I think everybody will set their own priorities. One person might like band concerts, so band concerts are always priority. Somebody else might like dance, so dance is priority. And that can't be done. It's got to be figured out some way so each organization has a chance.
Is it possible that would cut down the use of the facilities? Maybe if 2 merge, they would only have 1 show in lieu of 2 different companies out there having 2 shows? Could we be losing financial income?
I don't think so. I think you'd be increasing the use of the stadium. As you see it full, it's going to get full each time. I think the more times you go to a function when it's full, you like it, it's better. You go to a function that's half empty, you always think, well, what's wrong?
But I think when you look at different groups that come in, I mean, the question is who gets the priority, and I think we've laid out the historical view of who gets priority. But the other thing is when we talk about merging 2 groups, I know when my daughter was involved in theater, there are certain popular things that every group does, and they each have their own audience. So my daughter's play that she did might be the same as somebody else's, but they have separate audiences. And putting the 2 together is not going to make my daughter's group happy. It's not going to make the other group happy. So I think the burden really falls on the group that's there. They're the ones that pay the theater rental. They're the ones that derive the income from the ticket sales. And if they have a deficit, then they have to make arrangements for that some other way.
My sense is that the city staff really can exercise a lot of leadership in this regard by working proactively with TPAC and other arts organizations to ensure there is this coordination. And I know that this has been a bumpy road in the past, but I really think that the city staff, it's incumbent on them to actually exercise that kind of leadership to ensure that the arts organizations aren't tripping over each other and we aren't having the conflict that can occur.
I believe this was at the Torrance Art Museum. It was not at the Armstrong Theater.
But currently, do we have any of those issues on the table?
They did resolve this one on a trial basis.
And
So we'll find out next year if we have it on the table.
Okay, because they're coming in for something in the future, a year away, 2 years away. I mean, it's not something that they're going to be doing in the next month or so.
No, they do this once a year.
But I'll tell you, we're very fortunate to have a center that's so fully utilized. It's a very popular center. There's something there almost every night. So there is a reason that we need to set priorities. There is a reason we have these priorities, and I think that's a good thing.